The DNA sequencing came back with an error code the lab had never seen. Sample contaminated, run it again. Same result. A third time, same impossibility. The woman sitting across the table from the geneticist has bone density 2.8 times normal human range. Her red blood cells carry a protein structure that doesn't exist in any known population database. The sequencing shows markers that shouldn't be there. We can't explain this, the doctor says. His hands shake slightly. Your genetic profile suggests. I don't know what it suggests. She's 34 years old. A grandmother told her never to look into the family history, never trace the names, never ask about the height, never look back. But she did. And what she found doesn't fit into medical understanding. There are 5 signs, genetic markers, physical impossibilities, patterns that appear in families across Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and scattered pockets worldwide. Families who were told the same thing generation after generation. Don't look back, don't ask, don't search. The archive sits in rural Poland, 2 hours from Krakow, where the roads turn from asphalt to gravel and the forests grow thick. A converted farmhouse, books stacked floor to ceiling, genealogical records in 17 languages. Maria Kowalska has been tracking these families for 30 years. She's 67 now, former university archivist, forced retirement in 1998. They said budget cuts. She knows better. The room smells like old paper and wood smoke. Winter light comes through windows that don't quite close properly. Temperature drops 5 degrees when you enter her study. Always has. She doesn't know why. People come here when the medical tests don't make sense, she says, her accent Polish with something else underneath it. When their doctors tell them the results are contaminated, when genealogy websites can't trace their surnames past 1850, she shows you a map on her wall. Red pins, hundreds of them, concentrated in regions where official records claim nobody lived. Ghost villages, erased towns, names that don't appear on any modern map. These are the families, she says. The ones who carry the signs. Anna came here 3 months ago. She's sitting at Maria's table now, hands wrapped around tea that's gone cold. She's 28. Her medical records show she's 197 centimeters tall. Her younger brother is 211 centimeters. Their father was 206. Their grandfather's death certificate lists his height as 224 centimeters, 7 feet 4 inches. My grandmother was tiny, Anna says, 152 centimeters, 4 foot 11. But her father, she trails off, looking at Maria. Maria opens a folder. Inside, a photograph from 1937. A man standing next to a doorframe that's been measured. Standard door height, 200 centimeters. The man's head clears the frame by half a meter. Your great-great-grandfather, Maria says. Reported height, 243 centimeters. 8 feet. Anna's voice drops. The doctors say that's not genetically possible from my grandmother's side. The height should have averaged out. Regressed toward the mean, but it didn't. It accelerated. She describes the growth pattern. Normal until puberty, then rapid acceleration. Her brother grew 35 centimeters in a single year. Medical impossibility. The endocrinologist ran tests for gigantism, negative. Pituitary function normal. Bone structure normal, except for the density. They don't understand it, she says. My doctor called in specialists. They argued in the hallway. I heard them. One said it suggests a different baseline population. The other said that's ridiculous. The baseline is what haunts her. If the regression toward the mean should happen but doesn't, it suggests the mean itself is different, that somewhere in the family history, the average height wasn't 170 centimeters. It was something else. My grandmother told me never to research the family tree. Anna says, she made me promise. When she was dying, she grabbed my hand. "Don't look back," she said. "They'll come if you look back." Anna looked anyway, found records, names, villages in the Carpathian foothills that don't exist anymore, church registers that list her ancestors with notations in the margins, tall ones, different ones, relocated in 1847. She pauses, sets down the tea. "I'm scared of how tall my children might be." Maria has blood test results from 47 families spread across her desk. All show the same anomaly. Bone density 3 times normal, she says, sometimes higher. One woman in Slovakia, 3.7 times. Her bones should be so dense she can't move properly. But she can. No health issues. Her skeleton is just denser. The medical term is osteosclerosis when pathological. But these families don't have pathological symptoms. No pain. No restricted movement. No fractures, despite density that should make bones brittle. The physics don't work. A researcher in Warsaw Medical University tested samples from 12 individuals across 6 families, published his preliminary findings in 2003. The paper was retracted within 3 months. No explanation. His university funding was cut the following year. He's still alive, Maria says. Won't talk about it, but he saved the data. She opens a laptop, shows you graphs. Bone density measurements plotted against age. Normal human baseline in blue. The test subjects in red. The red line sits 280% above the blue. This bone density, she says, would be consistent with evolutionary pressure in high-gravity environments or populations adapted to carry significant weight over long distances, or bodies built to a different scale. The different scale is what keeps appearing in the medical notes. Proportions that are human but amplified. Bone thickness, joint size, skull capacity. One of the families tracked their ancestry to a village near Almaty. The village records listed average male height as 198 centimeters in 1823. Average, not exceptional. The records note this population was relocated in 1847 by imperial order. Destination not specified. They didn't want these people clustering, Maria says. Didn't want the genetics concentrating. So they scattered them, told them to forget. Told them not to gather. The bone density shows up in X-rays. Doctors notice. They run more tests. The families learn to avoid medical imaging when possible. Learn to not ask questions when insurance companies flag their skeletal scans. People break bones and don't realize it, Maria says. The density compensates. Hairline fractures that would sideline most people for weeks barely register. One man was in a car accident. Impact that should have shattered his femur. Walked away. The emergency room doctor couldn't explain it. She closes the laptop. The question is, bone density this high isn't random mutation. It's adaptation. Adaptation to what? The next person who knows about the blood came from Warsaw. He's not here anymore, but his research is, the medical facility is cold, tile and fluorescent hum. Dr. Piotr Mazurek worked here for 15 years. Hematology. Blood composition. Genetic markers. He tested samples from families Maria sent him. Controlled study. Double-blind. Looking for genetic commonalities. What he found was a protein sequence that doesn't exist in standard human populations. The protein appears in the hemoglobin structure, not a mutation, a variant, consistent across samples from families with no known relation. Polish, Ukrainian, Kazakh, Turkish, Romanian families, same protein sequence, same genetic marker. This suggests a common ancestor population. His notes read, but geographic distribution makes this statistically impossible with known migration patterns. The protein enhances oxygen carrying capacity. The blood cells are more efficient. Cardiovascular performance consistently measures 1.5-20% above expected baseline for age and fitness level. Athletes in these families don't understand why they recover faster, why their VO2 max numbers don't match their training levels, why altitude doesn't affect them the way it should. Dr. Mazurek's research noted subject's blood oxygen saturation at 4,200 meters elevation measured equivalent to sea level performance. Subject reported no symptoms of altitude sickness. No acclimatization period required. The research was progressing toward publication when the funding disappeared. The University Ethics Committee raised questions about informed consent, questions about sample sourcing, questions that didn't make sense, because the protocols were standard. Dr. Mazurek resigned in 2006, moved to private practice. Won't discuss the research, but he didn't destroy the data. Maria has copies, stored on drives she keeps in 3 separate locations. The protein sequence, she says, appears in populations that shouldn't be genetically connected unless they descend from the same source population. A population we're told didn't exist. Back at Maria's archive, the afternoon light is failing. She lights oil lamps because the electricity is unreliable out here. The light flickers across pages of medical records. The protein is sign 3, she says, but it connects to something deeper. She shows you Dr. Mazurek's sequencing data. The protein marker sits on a specific chromosome segment. That segment includes other genetic information about height regulation, bone density, and something else. Immune function, Maria says. The families don't get sick the same way. Common viruses affect them differently. Some barely register symptoms. Others show accelerated recovery times. One family tracked illness patterns across 4 generations. Influenza strains that hospitalize normal populations cause mild symptoms in their lineage. It's not immunity, Maria clarifies. It's efficiency. Their immune systems respond faster, process pathogens differently. A medical journal from 1923 documented a typhoid outbreak in a village near Lviv. Mortality rate, 34% of the general population. Among families later identified as carrying the height marker, 2%. The researchers noted unusual resistance in certain family lines, but attributed it to diet or sanitation. Maria doesn't think it was diet. The genetic markers cluster, she says. Height, bone density, blood proteins, immune response. They travel together. You don't get one without the others. It's a package, a consistent phenotype. She pulls out genealogical charts, family trees spanning 8, 9, 10 generations. The markers appear reliably. Dominant inheritance pattern. If one parent carries it, 73% chance the children show the signs. If both parents carry it, the expression intensifies. This is why they told families not to intermarry, Maria says, not to concentrate the bloodlines, because when they concentrate, the signs become impossible to hide. A woman named Katarzyna is sitting in the corner of Maria's study. She's been quiet for an hour, just listening. Now she speaks. I'm 193 centimeters, she says. My bone density scan flagged at my last physical. Doctor wanted to know if I take supplements. I don't. My blood work shows the protein. And I've never broken a bone, never had the flu, never get sick. She's 31, works in Krakow as an engineer, came to Maria because her grandmother died last year and left her a letter. Don't look for the others, the letter said. Don't gather. Don't organize. They're watching for patterns. They'll come if you cluster. Katarzyna looked anyway. Found 300 families in Poland alone. Same markers, same warnings from grandparents, same instruction. Forget. Scatter. Don't look back. But we're here, she says quietly, looking back, gathering the data. What happens now? The sensory anomalies don't show up in medical tests. They're self-reported, consistent across families, unexplainable. They hear things, Maria says. Frequencies outside normal human range. High-frequency sounds that don't register for most people. Electrical hum, subsonic vibrations. One man described hearing the resonance of buildings before earthquakes. Not predicting them, hearing the stress patterns in the structure. A woman in Romania hears radio frequencies without equipment, not voices. The carrier waves themselves. She can tell when she's near a transmission tower by the pitch change in her hearing. Doctors test their hearing, Maria says. The tests come back normal. Standard human range, 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. But these people report perception beyond that. Infrasound below 20 Hz, ultrasound above 20,000. The perception isn't consistent. Some hear lower frequencies, others higher. Some perceive electromagnetic fields as a tactile sensation. One man describes walking into rooms and feeling the wiring in the walls. This is where the science struggles, Maria admits, because we can't measure subjective experience. We can't test perception beyond standard ranges without equipment that doesn't exist in civilian medicine. But the reports are consistent, too consistent to dismiss. An elderly man named Joseph comes to Maria's archive twice a year. He's 81, carries a cane he doesn't need, walks straight, spine rigid. Height, 203 centimeters. I could always hear the earth, he says. His voice is rough. Eastern accent so thick, Maria has to translate some words. My father said his father could too. Hear the vibrations, hear when storms came. Hear animals moving underground. Joseph describes perception that sounds like synesthesia. Sounds that have textures, frequencies that have colors. He walks into Maria's study and stops. This room hums, he says. Always has. Feels like standing next to old machinery. Something resonating under the floor. Maria's tested the room. No unusual electromagnetic activity. No structural vibrations. Nothing on any instrument, but Joseph feels it. So does every person with the markers who's visited. My grandmother told me it's because we're tuned differently, Joseph says. She said, our people heard the old frequencies, the ones the earth used to sing, before everything changed, before the scattering. He won't elaborate on what changed, says his grandmother wouldn't tell him. Just said the world used to resonate differently, and their people could hear it. They told us to forget, because we remember things in our bodies, Joseph says, not in our minds. In our bones, in our blood. The memory is physical, genetic, and they don't want us remembering. The fifth sign appears in childhood. Teachers notice first. The children process differently, Maria says. Spatial reasoning, pattern recognition. They see structures in mathematics that aren't being taught. They build things without instruction. They understand engineering principles. Nobody showed them. She has school reports from 12 different children across 7 countries. Same observations, same flagging by educators. Gifted programs, unusual aptitude. Suggests advanced exposure to concepts beyond curriculum. But the parents didn't teach them. The children just know. One girl in Kazakhstan built a scale model of a massive architectural structure at age 7, not from a picture, from memory. But she'd never seen the structure. It was described to her grandmother by her great-grandmother. Verbally, no images. 3 generations of oral description. The girl built it anyway. Proportions perfect. Architectural details correct. When researchers compared it to archaeological evidence from similar structures in Central Asia, the accuracy was 87%. How does a child know the load-bearing mathematics of a structure they've never seen? Maria asks. How do they understand architectural principles from a civilization we're told didn't exist? The spatial ability appears early, 3, 4 years old. Building blocks arranged in complex geometric patterns, drawing structures with precise proportions, understanding symmetry and balance without instruction. It's not intelligence, Maria says. It's recognition, like they remember something. Something embedded in their perception. One boy in Poland became obsessed with acoustic architecture. Age 6, no musical training. Started drawing rooms with specific angles, specific proportions his parents didn't understand. Took him to a psychologist. The psychologist noticed the boy's drawings matched acoustic principles used in ancient amphitheaters, resonance chambers, sound-focusing architecture, mathematics that architects spend years studying. The boy just knew, drew them instinctively. When researchers tested the proportions he drew, they found optimal acoustic properties. The rooms he designed would amplify sound naturally, focus it, create resonance patterns that enhance clarity. This is genetic memory, Maria says. It has to be. Information encoded somehow. Passed down, not through teaching. Through the blood, the children with all 5 signs. The height, the bones, the blood, the senses, the knowing. They're rare. Maria's tracked 17 families where all 5 appear in the current generation. These are the families they watch, she says. The ones they told most forcefully to scatter, to never gather, to forget. The farmhouse in the Carpathians is 3 hours from Maria's archive. Stone walls 2 feet thick, roof sagging, inhabited by an elderly woman and her grandson. She's 94. Name, Magdalena. Her grandfather was 229 centimeters tall, died in 1923. Before he died, he told her something. He said, "We used to build the world," Magdalena says. Her hands shake, but her voice doesn't. He said, "Our people built the great structures, the ones they can't explain, the ones with mathematics nobody understands." He said, "We did it because we heard how the stones wanted to sit, heard the resonance, built to amplify it." She won't say more about the building. Gets quiet when pressed, but she talks about the scattering. After 1850, she says, they started moving families, imperial orders, relocate here, relocate there, break up the communities. They said it was census reorganization. It wasn't. It was deliberate. Scatter the bloodlines. Don't let them concentrate. Her family was moved 4 times in 3 generations. Poland to Ukraine. Ukraine to Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan back to Poland. Different villages each time. Never the same region twice. They kept records, she says, of the tall families. The ones with the bone density. The ones whose children knew things they shouldn't. They tracked us, made sure we didn't cluster. She was told never to look for the others, never trace the family connections, never marry into families with the same signs. My mother said it was because they'd come, Magdalena says. Government men, researchers, they'd test you, take samples. Your children would disappear into programs. Gifted schools, they called them. The children never came back the same. She won't name the programs, won't give dates. Too dangerous, she says, even now. But I'm 94, she says. What can they do to me? I'm telling you, they tried to erase us, erase the bloodline, erase the memory. But you can't erase genetics. You can scatter us, tell us to forget. But the blood remembers. Back at Maria's archive, evening has fully settled. The oil lamps cast shadows that seem too long. The question everyone asks, Maria says, is why? Why suppress this? Why scatter these families? Why the systematic erasure? She doesn't have a complete answer, just pieces. Because height isn't just height, she says. Bone density isn't just bones. The blood markers, the senses, the knowing, it's a package. It identifies a population, a source population, and someone doesn't want that population identified. She pulls out the oldest document in her collection, church register from 1823, village in the Altai foothills. Population, 2,300. Notations in the margins, tall ones, stone builders, relocated by order of the Tsar. Village dismantled 1847. The village doesn't exist anymore, not on any modern map. The location was excavated in 1967 by Soviet archaeologists. They found foundations, massive stone foundations, architectural mathematics that don't match any known historical period. The excavation was halted, site sealed, official explanation. Unstable ground conditions. They don't want us finding the source, Maria says. Don't want us tracing back to where we came from. Because if we do, we find structures, architecture, evidence of a civilization that doesn't fit the historical timeline. She shows you photographs, smuggled from archaeological sites, stone buildings with acoustic properties, resonance chambers, harmonic architecture, mathematics embedded in the proportions. Our ancestors built these, she says. The people with the height, the bones, the blood. They built the world's great structures, and someone erased them from history, told their descendants to forget, scattered them so they wouldn't remember collectively. The 5 signs are markers, genetic flags. They identify descendants of that erased population. And now you know, Maria says. So the question is, what do you do with this information? Do you look back? Do you search for the others? Or do you forget, like they told your grandparents to? Anna is still at Maria's table. So is Katarzyna. So are 4 others who arrived this evening, all between 25 and 40 years old, all with the markers, all told never to look back. We're here, Katarzyna says, already looking, already gathering. What happens now? Maria is quiet for a long time. Now you decide if you're willing to be counted, she finally says. Because once you identify yourself, once you connect with the others, you're visible. The families who stayed scattered, who forgot, who married into different bloodlines, they diluted the markers, made themselves invisible. She gestures to the people in her study. But you're here, concentrated. The signs are strong. If you organize, if you gather data, if you start testing more families, they'll notice. Nobody speaks for a full minute. Then Anna, who are they? I don't know, Maria admits. Governments, institutions, whoever rewrote the history books and dismantled the villages and told the families to scatter. Whoever wants this population hidden. The oil lamp flickers. Outside, wind moves through trees. The temperature in the room drops another degree. I'm keeping the data, Maria says. I'm tracking the families. And when enough of you are ready, when enough of you decide to stop hiding, we'll have proof, genetic proof, medical proof, architectural proof. We'll have evidence that a population existed, a population with different physiology, different abilities, different knowledge. She looks at each person in the room, but you have to decide. Do you want to be found, or do you want to keep the promise your grandparents made? Stay scattered. Stay hidden. Never look back. The genetic markers are real. The 5 signs appear consistently across families that have no known connection. Medical documentation exists. Blood samples exist. The data is accumulating in archives like Maria's across Eastern Europe and Central Asia, but questions remain. Why does bone density 3 times normal not cause health complications? Where did the blood protein originate if not from known human populations? How do children recognize architectural principles they were never taught? Maria's archive remains. The families continue coming. The data continues accumulating. Some choose to connect. Others walk away, keep the promise. Never look back. The 5 signs persist. Height in the bloodline. Bones that won't break. Blood that carries oxygen like it's tuned for a different atmosphere. Senses that perceive beyond normal range. Children who know things they shouldn't. And somewhere, in scattered families across continents, the memory persists, not in minds, in genetics, in the structure of cells, in the resonance of bones. They told us to forget. Told us never to look back. Told us the past is gone, but the blood remembers. And some of us are listening.